Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Marketing Clarity Chat. We are going to be diving into something that every solopreneur craves, and that is consistent leads and clients. The keyword there is consistent, but let's be honest, there's a lot of noise in the marketing world about how to get them. So today I am joined by Brea, founder of GRT Marketing. We are both very passionate about simplifying this process for solopreneurs. So we're going to be diving into the topic of how do you form a clear path to consistent clients in your business? So to get us started, Brea, do you want to just share a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, GRT marketing, it's all about making the paths of marketing more simple and more clear. So this is really my zone of genius, is taking the big idea of marketing and taking it down into bite-sized pieces. For solopreneurs, I mainly work with wellness and service-based businesses doing this to make their marketing more sustainable, more consistent, and then of course we can get more patients and clients in the door consistently. Which is the name of the game for all of us. So I hear a lot from clients or potential clients who say, I suck at marketing. There's so much to marketing. Where do I even start? And so, yeah, just taking that really big topic and putting it right.
Yes. And Brea does it so beautifully. She is a wonderful teacher. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Laura. I'm the owner of Laura Ray Consulting. I run what I call a small boutique marketing agency because it's just me here. But I work with solopreneurs who need reliable hands-on marketing support. So whether that be strategy or copywriting or web design, or maybe you need somebody to run your meta ads for you, that's where my expertise lies. I'm truly here to help you optimize your marketing and simplify it. Like I said, we're both super passionate about that piece so that you can begin to get consistent results from your marketing efforts. So, with that being said, let's dive into the biggest problem we both see, which is all of the distractions that keep solopreneurs stuck. At the end of the day, like I said before, there's so much marketing noise. And I think that's the distractions we're trying to negate for our clients. But Brea, do you want to just talk about some of the distractions you've noticed with your clients?
Yeah, for sure. And I've noticed it with myself too. So, kind of the beautiful thing about having a business right now is that there is so much information and there are so many resources out in the world. So, constant publications of blogs, social media tidbits, podcasts, like entire YouTube videos on all things marketing. And a lot of things are, very flashy. So like, hey, do this and you can 10x your client base, or do this and it's a huge game changer for your business. So it's really cool because it's really easy to learn on your own without having to spend a ton of money potentially, just piecing it all together. The problem, and I fall in the trap sometimes too, but what I see with my clients as well is they, for lack of a better word, they fall for the clickbait, right? The flashy headline, and they try it and they're like, well, that didn't work. Or, I tried that and definitely didn't. I spent a lot of money. It looked like it was free, but it wasn't. I spent a lot of money and I didn't get the results. And the problem is we jump into these solutions and tactics without really taking the time to match it back to our clients. What do our clients need, and really what are our goals, and where does our energy lie? So does it align with my clients? Does it align with me? And where is that happy spot versus just jumping in blindly and trying to get to the end without really putting the work in to figure out what that means for you and your business. So I see that a lot. I think that's a huge distraction for people.
Yeah. Distraction. And I'm trying to think of the other word that came to mind, but I think it can be really discouraging when you invest your time in something and you don't get any return on it. And I think that's a very common theme that I see with my clients as well, is that they've tried all of these different things and it just hasn't worked. And so they think there's something wrong with them or with their offer or with their idea. But even with a client last week that I was working with, she wasn't getting any leads on her offer with her organic channels. But the moment we ran a meta ad, there was tons of people opting into her lead magnet. So it wasn't an offer issue. It was a targeting issue. And that's where I just want to take a moment to encourage you. If you are feeling like you're doing all of the things and jumping through all the hoops and you're not gaining traction, it might be that we need to focus attention somewhere else. And I guess when it comes to the overall like distractions that I see commonly, a lot of jumping between platforms, kind of going with the wave of, oh, Flowdesk is so pretty and cool, so I must do that, and I must switch my email service provider to that one because it's the one that's like everybody's crazy about. Or, it could be a landing page builder, it could be a CRM. There's so many different platforms that people are just constantly jumping between, and I think sometimes that can really distract from the things that will actually move the needle in your business. I think chasing viral trends is a huge thing, seeing that it worked for somebody else and just continuously jumping on the bandwagon of somebody else's success, without necessarily thinking about your audience or even yourself, like you were saying. In the design world, buying random templates that don't align with your goals at all, but you're buying it because it's in a bundle and it's $2 on Black Friday, and so we're just going to do it. But ultimately getting bogged down with too many resources that are cheap and maybe not the best fit for your business. And of course, the very common one, investing in all of the courses all of the time from all of the gurus without a clear direction. For me, kind of speaking to those watching the video, you've been feeling like you're doing all of the things but not gaining traction. This is probably why. And it's not about your offer or your effort. It's more about the focus. Like, you need more focus on the right things and consistency on the right things for you and your business rather than doing all of the things. Anything else that you want to add to that, Brea?
No, that was beautifully said. I agree with a lot of that. I hear a ton that people, like, they have bought so many courses and I've never even looked at them. So there's that bucket of, like, I've bought the courses and didn't do anything, but I've bought the courses or the templates and they just sit there because we're really grasping at the end result that's being promised without really putting the thought and time into the strategy that really is going to make the difference. And, you talking about bouncing, I also hear a lot of people stressing about platforms on social media too. So they're stressing about, I just don't do social media because it stresses me out and I feel like I have to be on there every day and I don't want to do it and it sucks my energy. And so I don't do anything. So it kind of goes back to that consistency piece where we, just like you said, we don't have to do all the things. We just have to do the things that make sense for us in our business and focus, and work on the things that are going to make an impact.
Right. Yeah. Which is so much easier said than done. Like, we acknowledge that, right? But yeah. I think that it's distinguishing what voices we're choosing to listen to as well. We can't listen to every single coach. We can't listen to every single guru and have it all align. And so we do need to have a little bit of discernment within our own selves to know, if something is not right, and trusting that instinct.
Right. And I'm understanding the idea of bouncing around to test versus bouncing around to chase the trend.
Right. Amen to that. Because there are a lot of things to test. But once we've tested it and we kind of measure its success, we can pivot from there, which I could go on about that. So now that we've talked about those distractions that are so common, let's talk about what we should be focusing on and just simplifying that process. So we kind of came up with a little bit of a simplified map to guide our conversation today. So this map, I really want you to visualize a clear, straight path from your starting point being here. This is when you first began your business, you first came up with the idea of what you want to offer to your clients. And over here is the destination that you want to get to, which is getting consistent leads and clients, building scalable systems. Maybe you want to hit those 10K months, whatever it may be. Think of what your goal is right now in your business. This is the final destination, right? So when we are looking at this map from start to finish, we need to think about your messaging and audience. We need to think about the content that you're producing. We need to think about the funnel that you're building and how that funnel is actually getting people to turn into clients. So, like Brea mentioned, her zone of genius is very much like she's a researcher. She's awesome at teaching you how to just learn more about your audience, figure out who your audience is, how to turn that into messaging and content and strategy. So, let me pass it on to Brea. Tell us a little bit more about just audience research and messaging in this simplified map that we're talking about.
Yeah, it really, for me, the domino for all of it is like you alluded to, it is the client. So the ideal client work, that really understanding your audience, and that's going to flip over all the rest of the steps that you talk about. So to really get content and messaging, you really need to understand who you're talking to. So taking the time to understand your audience makes all the difference in the world, because all of a sudden you're not talking to everybody, you are talking to one person. So all of a sudden when you're seeing, when you know the example that you gave of your client in the ad, of course they're getting conversions and clicks now because they are targeting the audience that makes sense for them. So they know exactly who they're talking to, and then when you could put it in front of that person, of course they're going to click. So, if mac and cheese is going to go target the whole world, that might work, because mac and cheese might be university accepted. I'm not sure. But if you're really targeting moms of toddlers, that's really going to connect, because that is a key audience for that specific product. And it's going to speak to them in a way that might not speak to everybody. So their messaging can be super duper clear, that's appealing to that particular segment. And it makes all their messaging clear. And that's for every single brand. So knowing your audience so well, what their fears are, what their challenges are, what their goals are, then you can start worrying about messaging and content and where do I put it and how do I target. But you can't really do that until you understand that.
Yeah, 100%. And once you have that messaging dialed in and that dictates your content, then your offers that you build out are going to become more intentional, because you're interacting with your audience a lot more. Ultimately, if you're having conversations with your audience, you're probably getting ideas on ways that you can help them, right? And that's what ultimately helps you create a marketing funnel that intentionally takes your client from somebody who's just becoming aware of their problem and the solutions for their problem to actually building a connection with them. And it's when that person feels connected to you in some sort of way that they will actually translate into a client. You can't go from awareness straight to client. Typically, there are some unique cases where, somebody's just like ready to go. But there's usually that flow where, we take our time to get to know the people that we're investing in. So again, the overall flow that we are looking at right now is, identifying your audience and researching them so that you have the proper messaging, and then creating content from that's intentional, that will actually drive attention from your ideal client. Then from there, we're building out an intentional marketing funnel that brings them through different offers that you've created. And from there, that can lead them into becoming a client. So now that we've mapped that out, let's dig into what actually matters the most at each of those stages, kind of taking it one more layered. So in this case, we want to focus in on the priorities rather than perfectionism. That's another distraction. if we want to take it back there. I think a lot of us fall into a perfectionist mode, so to speak, and it can prevent us from creating offers. It could prevent us from showing up online. It could prevent us from a lot of things. So, in this conversation, I want us to just focus a little more high level on the different stages. So, stage one, Brea, I'd love for you to just talk about messaging and giving some tangible tips on how they can start that stage.
Yeah, for sure. I think it goes back to speaking to one person versus many and really honing in on somebody's desires, really showing empathy. They need to know that you understand them well. So I always go back to this example of scrolling through Instagram, and there was an ad for uh, acne medication. And in big, bold words, it was moms of 13-year-olds with acne. And as a mom of a 13-year-old with acne at the time, that stood out to me. Like, I literally, you say you want to stop the scroll. That literally stopped my scroll.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't looking for a product per se, but they pegged me perfect. And that's what you want to do. When I tell people this, sometimes they get very uneasy about putting all of their audience into one person. They say, well, what if I do that and then, I'm excluding a ton of people? Because if I look at my clients, I can say that a lot of them are here, but there's also a lot that aren't here. So won't that drive sales away? And the answer is always the same, and it is no, it will not. And I've worked with many clients who they come back later and they say, you were right. So I started talking to one person. I identified who my ideal client is. I really nailed down who the person is that I want to work with, and I started building all of my messaging around that one person. And guess what? I'm now getting more clients. And do they always follow that ideal client profile? No, they don't. They still come in, but you're really magnetizing the people that you want to work with. So
Yeah.
I would say think about one person, message like you're talking to one person, and the one person being the one that you really want to work with.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Brea is really, really good at teaching you how to intentionally research that audience too. I just want to call that out because Brea even helped me with that piece. Like, that's not my expertise. And so when I went full time in my business, Brea helped me with that piece and it was super impactful. So thank you for that. Okay. Stage number 2 is all about content. So Brea, do you want to talk us through stage 2?
I would say with content, I'll speak to the organic piece. You are the expert in the paid space. But when I talk about content with my clients, I talk about being authentic and consistent versus putting a bunch of stuff out and just to put stuff out. So there has to be a strategy behind what we're doing. It has to be very intentional, speaking to the audience. And again, going back to your goals. So like, where in the funnel are your clients and where are you trying to lead them to? Being very intentional about the content that you're putting out. So being intentional about where to put it, how often to put it, and what exactly to put in the content, and having a strategy and a content plan around that. And then, of course, acknowledging that we all work differently, right? So when I tell someone to be consistent with their content, that can feel very overwhelming. So we work through what that might mean for somebody, person A versus person B. But it's doable for everybody. And when you can stay consistent and stay in front of somebody, really the name of the game is being there when somebody needs you. And to your point that you made earlier, most of the times they don't need you quite yet. So they're going through this funnel where awareness purchase can take quite a while. So you need to show up and keep showing up. So that moment when they are ready, or the moment where they hear somebody else talking about what you're top of mind. So that's our goal when it comes to content.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and when it comes to like paid traffic, and paid content that you're producing, you still need to make sure that the messaging is in alignment with who you want to attract. For example, I have a client right now who's going to be launching a holiday conversations guide, and that could definitely be used by both men and women. But in order to attract her ideal audience, we have to call attention, like you mentioned before, we have to call attention to the fact that this is a free guide for women, and being very specific about that, because with paid traffic, you only have a split second to capture somebody's attention. And if it's not in alignment with what they like, how they identify, then we lose that traction. Paid traffic can be helpful. Again, it's going to vary on industry. It's going to vary on budget. It's going to vary on a lot of different factors, but it can be a way to, build an email list with like a consistent flow. And again, it's not for everybody. I am not a one size fits all marketing coach, nor are you. And so I don't point that solution to everybody, but it could be. It actually could be a way to free yourself from some of these other tasks that you feel are really bogging you down in your business and keeping you from being successful. Now, when it comes to your funnel, that's stage number 3. It's actually being intentional with how you're guiding your client from, again, awareness to conversion. I want to say the words simplicity and alignment. We do not want to overcomplicate our funnels. If you have not created a marketing funnel for yourself, which by definition, or I should say my definition, a funnel is just a collection of offers. It's taking somebody from point A to point C, and point C is maybe your higher ticket offer or the main way that you help people. So typically, what I teach my clients is that a very simple marketing funnel is you start with a freebie. You just start with something that you can offer up for free. Maybe, again, that's a live training. Maybe it's a workshop. Maybe it's a free guide. I will say free guides still work. There's like this whole notion that free guides and PDFs are boring and don't work, but they can build your list. I promise you, I see it all the time. But you point your traffic source, you choose your traffic source, you point them to your freebie, whatever that may be for your business. Then from there, it's what's that next tier of offers? Maybe it's a mid-tier offer where you are offering a paid training. Maybe it's a mid-tier offer where you're doing an audit. Maybe it's a mid-tier offer where you're selling a bundle of some sort. It's something that's not going to break the bank. It's not a $2,000 offer. And then, of course, we can start to nurture them over time to then take action on our higher ticket offers. Maybe that's a done for you service. Maybe that's a $2,000 course. It could be a lot of different things depending on what industry you're in. So for the most part, think of it like a 3 offer tier: free, middle, high. That's the best way to start. Obviously, you can complicate your funnel more than that, but to keep it simple, I do recommend just choosing 3 offers to start. You can always pivot, you can always change out your offers, but we have to start with something. The one thing about a funnel is that you don't want to make your audience guess what to do next. You want in your content, whether it's paid or organic, you want to guide them to the first step working with you. That's the free offer. Invite them to download it. Invite them to join your webinar. Again, it just depends on what your offer is, right? And then from there, once they've interacted with the guide or the workshop, you guide them to the next option for them. Maybe it is a paid audit where you're like, okay, like now you've got the basics down. Let's actually walk through and optimize your marketing. At the end of the day, your funnel needs to take them from awareness to connection. That's the main goal. And then we bring them to actually convert into a client or a sale. Now, once they actually turn into a client or a sale, you need to deliver what you promised them. I think Brea and I both work with integrity. Like we show up and show out for our clients who decide to move forward with us. And that's what creates repeat clients and referrals and the word of mouth momentum that we all are seeking. Brea, do you want to speak to that a little bit too? I know that we were going to kind of tag team this one, but ultimately that client experience can really start to snowball and create that consistent, you know, lead generation and sales too.
Yeah, for sure. And if you talk to most business owners, they'll say, "Oh, I just want like a 100% referral based business." So if that's what you want, this is where you need to focus. This whole retention piece and the client experience piece. And actually, I believe in this so much. So GRT Marketing stands for Gain, Retain, Thrive. And so the R, retain, is all about this, because I think this is what a lot of marketing people miss, is they're so focused on getting clients in the door, which is the hardest part, but they don't put a lot of focus on the clients once they're there. And that's a huge mistake. So if you really want to build loyalty, advocacy, and feel good about what you're delivering, you have to pay attention to this piece. Super, super important.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. So ultimately, we've covered a lot of ground, and you might be feeling a little overwhelmed. But we want to just help you make this a little easier to achieve. That's why we offer the services that we offer, truly. But I want to just leave you with some bite-sized actions that you could take this week to start moving forward to consistent leads and clients. So Brea, when you're thinking about just where you help people, and with the topics that you discussed today, what is one actionable step that our audience can take this week?
So when I talk about really understanding your audience, what I like to tell people is to just start paying attention. So do audits of clients who are, or potential clients on your email list, or replying to your emails, or talking on social media, or responding anywhere that you can see written or verbal words, even in conversations that you're doing one-on-ones. Pay attention to the words that they're. Pay attention to the challenges and the frustrations, the things that are tripping them up, and not just the essence, but the actual words, because it always helps to mirror back those words to them in your own messaging that you're. So my challenge to you this week is to start compiling either transcripts or comments or email replies, and start putting them in a spot where you can really take the time to digest and analyze kind of what those pain points and frustrations are for your people.
Yeah, amen to that. I think my bite-sized tidbit for today is to take an offer that you have already created and actually point your content to it. Tell people that it's there. Don't just assume that they're going to go to your website and download your PDF or join your webinar, whatever the offer is. I want you to tell somebody about it, whether it's in your Instagram story or on Threads, or maybe there's somebody that you know personally that could benefit from it. Tell them about it. Send them to a landing page where you can collect their email address and it can get added to an email service provider. If you don't have those mechanisms in place, maybe that's your first step. Maybe it's to design an offer, right? And once you have an offer, you just need a way to collect the information from your leads. And that's something that I could definitely dive into a lot more. We're not going to go that nitty gritty in this training today. Maybe I'll create another YouTube video that talks more about the mechanisms and the tech behind it all. But ultimately, tell somebody about what you do. That's going to be the first step that I recommend. You don't need a 17-step funnel. You don't need 10,000 followers to get consistent leads and clients in your business. You just need clarity on who you're talking to. You need to be consistent with whatever strategy you choose. And you need to start building connections with other humans and start with these small steps. So let's wrap this up with a reminder of what to focus on and what to ignore. Ultimately, we we want you to focus in on that simplified map that we were talking about. I want you to focus in on your audience first if you haven't already done that. If you have already done the research on your audience, that's when we can start to produce messaging that is in alignment and attracts them. And that then produces content. That content should lead people to your marketing funnel, your different offers. And those offers are what should be attractive enough for your audience to actually take action and become a client. So focus on those 4 things, ignore the rest. Clarity doesn't just attract clients, it gives you a peace of mind. Ultimately, we are solopreneurs. We built these businesses to have freedom built back into our life. And if you are just going and burning yourself out to get clients and leads, that's not what I want for you. I think that there is something better out there. That is where Brea and I really want to step in the gap for you if you need a little extra help. So, Brea, do you want to just tell us a little bit more about how you tangibly help solopreneurs with this? And I can link any resources that you feel might be helpful for those watching in the description of this video. But I just want to kind of give you some time to just highlight what you do.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Laura. So one of the things that I do is something that you alluded to earlier, which is what I call my client attraction bootcamp. And that's just really taking somebody through a process where we are doing the work to really understand their audience and then get down to the details of who they're serving in a very, very detailed black and white way. So at the end of this process, you have a profile that lists many, many categories of who your ideal client is, which makes content and messaging ridiculously easy to do because you have all this built in this black and white side. Once we have an ideal client to work with, I use that information to help people build the rest of the foundations in their marketing. So I like to work with people who aren't quite sure how to build a solid marketing foundation. So we use that ideal client work to really determine, what is the best way to do their email marketing and their SEO and their messaging and their website copy and all the things called marketing that seem overwhelming. We do them step by step. And beyond that, I do a lot of strategy work with folks who are just kind of like, okay, I kind of know what to do, but let's talk some strategy and figure out, like you said, what's my point C, and let's put together a plan on how to get there. So those are the main ways. If somebody, we talked about the exercise to go do some research to see like how your clients are talking about their frustrations and their fears and all that kind of good stuff. Another thing I like to do for somebody who's maybe not quite ready to go to the client attraction bootcamp is I have a list of journaling prompts. So it really puts you in the shoes of your ideal client and gets you to really just start thinking about how they feel and how they walk through their days. So that can be a nice step just to kind of get started in thinking about this. So if you want that, message me. Laura will put my link in the notes, and I'm happy to send that.
Love it. Yeah. Well, on my side of things, truly kind of where I step in the gap the most is through done for you services right now. I do offer, strategy coaching, and I offer a marketing audit where I take a look at your current campaign and I really dissect it, ultimately looking at all of the different analytics that make a difference and really analyze what needs to be done moving forward to actually get it working for you. That is one way that I just can step in the gap in a very affordable way and get you some good next steps. That being said, I am actually building out a more feedback-based community where I'm offering, just design and copywriting feedback for solopreneurs who are wanting to do their marketing on their own, but they need an expert shoulder when they're like, I don't know if I could put this out. Like they get, we all have that little like perfectionism in us. So if that sounds like an interesting just group to be a part of, the waitlist is open for that. The waitlist definitely has some perks to it. So I recommend signing up for the waitlist, even if you're like a little bit unsure. just so that you can access those perks. But um, again, the majority of the time I'm working with clients and designing their landing pages and writing their sales copywriting and building their websites out, so that they actually convert the traffic into leads and clients. So I'll link all of the resources that I have in the description as well. I have a couple of freebies that could help you actually map out a marketing funnel and have a very clear picture of what you need. So again, I'll link that in there. But we just want to thank you for your time today. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this chat, you know the drill. You can like this video and comment your thoughts and subscribe so that you don't miss the next Clarity chat. But thanks again for watching. Bye.